It's showing up for your team. Although they are a different department, it is so important that when there is an issue, you show up, you communicate, and from day one, because that's what facilities is, it's a little bit of solving problems. We would not have a job if there were not problems.
This is Facility Rockstars, the podcast that celebrates the unsung heroes of our daily lives, facility professionals. I'm your host, Jay Culbert. Join me as we honor these great leaders, sharing stories, insights, and expertise that empower us all to learn and grow together. Facility Rockstars is sponsored by Cleanliness, operating the way you operate in order to make your life easier. Welcome back to Facility Rockstars. I'm your host, Jay Culbert, and we're going to get right into an introduction to today's guest. She brings sharp insight and hands-on experience to the world of facilities and project management, especially within the fast-paced, high-demand convenience store sector. She began her career managing bid proposals for power systems at CAT and later stepped into the role of bid manager for EG America's construction team. Over time, she developed a deep specialization in vendor management, emergency response, and multi-site facilities optimization. Now, she leads maintenance operations across convenience store locations throughout Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut, keeping systems running smoothly and ensuring every site meets operational and customer standards. Maintenance manager at Noria, Carrie Battafarano, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jay. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for being here and investing your time with us, Carrie.
Of course. Happy to be here.
All right. I'm psyched about this show. Let's get right to it.
Great.
So, with all of this different experience you've had, what has been your biggest takeaway or your biggest lesson learned?
Never make an assumption.
Ooh, I love it. Oh, I love that one. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's gonna lead to some questions. What exactly do you mean, or what could you share?
So you're, as a maintenance manager, you're receiving lots of different calls that are coming from different team members at different levels, and it will come through as one thing, and it definitely could be another. And you want to make sure you are sending the right person, the right vendor, the right technician with the right skill set. Time is money, especially when you have an emergency, and you want to make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. So you can say, okay, we're going for a clogged toilet and I can send my technician, but really it's a mainline backup. So you want to ask questions. You don't always want to assume that we know what is actually going on. Got to dig a little deeper, find out what's happening.
Did you develop this skill or this framework from learning through mistakes, or was
Yes.
it okay? All right.
That's it. You always, that's the way to learn, is truly through trial and error or mistakes. And, you get out there and you have now 2 vendors sent and it's the wrong thing. Very recently, we had a situation where we saw a drain pipe leaking into our basement. We said, okay, well, I'm going to send a plumber. What we sent a plumber out there, emergency status. It ended up being a sprinkler that was actually hitting the wall. So now I've got a bill, that's going to this plumber, but it was actually just a sprinkler leaking in through the foundation. So trial and error, we need to seal that foundation. So I guess it's a positive thing. But again, you want to make sure even a seasoned professional is going to make these mistakes and forget to ask and say, okay, I see it. A pipe is leaking. I'm sending out a plumber. Well, that plumber is getting paid, but unfortunately that hits my budget. So it's very important to make sure we're asking all the right questions.
Oh, I completely agree. That's awesome. So do you and your team have a form or some kind of app, or like, how do you make sure that you're asking these questions?
We do. We use a dispatch app that goes to all of our vendors that are set up and a lot of our internal technicians. Something that Noria is really big on is we do a lot of our work in-house. And we have our own in-house electricians, our own in-house HVAC, and most of our plumbing, light plumbing, can also be done in-house. General building facilities is done in-house. We have in-house imaging. So anything that has to do with painting, concrete repairs, we have our own team for that too. We have some of our own landscapers as well. So
That's
we
great.
dispatch through our system. If we think we need a little extra help or we're a little light on our labor or whatever it may be, someone's on vacation, we have a really great vendor pool that we have developed through just years of being with these vendors and working with them, and great partnerships that we have.
That's fantastic, Carrie. Sounds like you're really very thorough on these things and learned through experience, right?
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
trial and error.
Yeah, sure do.
Good stuff. There's another topic that I know we want to talk about. So there were a couple of military friends of mine who said, it's always an argument between intelligence and operations, people looking for the info and then the soldiers on the field, if you will, right? And then in most businesses, you have a sales department and then an operations department, and, there's that potential conflict, maybe communication. Then there's a safety committee, but then there's operations. One wants to slow it down, be safe, so there's always that communication with different departments with potentially not competing, but different objectives, even though we should all be rowing in the same direction. So after that big setup, the topic you and I talked about was relationships between operations and facilities. And I'd love you to dive into that with us.
Absolutely. I'm really proud to say that Noria has a very strong relationship between the facilities department and the operations department. I think a lot of times you will see a little bit of a gap or a divide or breaking down in communication between those two departments. And that's something that we make sure that we focus on. So what you'll see sometimes is operations thinking, okay, we've asked for this issue to be fixed and it hasn't been fixed, and facilities maybe isn't doing their part. I think what we have done very good here is bridge that gap. Operations understands that communications is the most important part. They have no problem calling myself, my counterparts, our senior managers, just to find out where it's at. And there's, again, never an assumption that it's just sitting there. They understand that if it was put in through our dispatch system, that we are working, they trust us. And there are things that bubble up that become more of an issue. They'll call us. We always ask that it does go through that system. And once it's in that system, they know that they can trust that myself and my team are working on that. And I think that really just comes with a lot of follow through. They have seen us do it once. They know we're going to do it again. And that communication and trust is a huge, important part of that entire piece. And because of that open communication and open trust, we have really built a great relationship between the two departments. I have a lot of my operations team on speed dial. They have me on speed dial. They know that if I don't pick up, I will get right back to them. They know that if maybe something was entered as a minor issue and now it is escalated, to just pick up the phone and call me, because I will be there. My team will be there. If my team cannot be there, meaning my technicians and the boots on the ground, our vendors will be there. So it's really important to me, and it's something I take a lot of pride in, and they do too as well.
That's fantastic. Now, a couple follow-up questions for that. How did you get to this point? I mean, you kind of answered it by your explanation there, but was it just that trust that was built over time, or were there other factors?
It's showing up. It's showing up for your team. Although they are a different department, it is so important that when there is an issue, you show up, you communicate. And from day one, because that's what facilities is, it's a little bit of solving problems. We would not have a job if there were not problems. So anytime that there is a breakdown in that communication, that that loosens the trust. The trust is no longer there. So making sure from the day I started with this team that I was showing up, that I was following up, that my team members were going to be there on time, and showing them results. And this is a results driven business. If there is a problem and it is not fixed the first time, which is likely that happens depending on what the situation is, you need to let them know and have them trust that you're going to be able to get that fixed no matter what it is, even if it fell apart the first time. Now, we don't want that to happen, but we have to realize that that is a very big possibility and that they can trust you're going to be able to come back. You're going to take care of it. Sometimes there's smaller issues that do have to take a back seat. Sometimes you do have to explain that. And sometimes you're short staffed and you have to say, this is not going to happen today. It'll happen tomorrow. And being there for them, that's the most important thing. And not pointing the finger. It's easy to do that. Well, your team didn't do this or our team didn't do that. And it's just important to say, okay, we're going to work on this together. We're going to get it figured out. We're going to show up for you and we're going to give you the results that you want.
Very thorough. You said a couple of things. First off, I'm going to point out, you said, if I quote you properly or accurately, if there were not problems, we wouldn't have a job.
That's correct. That's what
right?
facilities is. Yeah.
And think about that. Like, that's one of the foundations of the why behind us launching this podcast too, because like, let's talk about these things when there aren't problems and share our best practices and our ideas. But yeah, I joke with a lot of my friends in facilities that, man, it's kind of a thankless job at times because when you're doing your job really, really well, nobody's paying attention to you. Right?
You think that, and I've seen that. I will say again, and I'm just very proud to be a part of this team and proud to be a part of this company because just today I had a phone call with one of our regional managers and he said, you guys have to stop telling Carrie she's doing such a great job. She's gonna take off on us and do a great job elsewhere. And it's too funny because no, I'm so grateful at how thankful they are because it can be a thankless job. I find that here at Noria, it's not that way. And I'm so lucky to have that. We are, as a team, very, very lucky to have that.
Oh, I can feel the culture. I can feel your passion.
It's
That is
a great
amazing.
culture.
Very cool. So the other thing you mentioned was smaller issues have to sometimes take a back seat. Now, this is not the first, second, or even 10th time that's been brought up on the show or in our world, right? So how do you, because someone who raised the issue doesn't think it's small, right? That's why they
Right.
brought it to us. So how
Absolutely.
do you explain that it's either not as important or, can't be done right now to that party who brought it forth?
Absolutely. It can be tricky. So you have to learn to prioritize things, and that comes with safety, first and foremost, over everything, and sales. So we're all in it for money. That's truly why we're here. We're here to make money. We're here to do a job. And we cannot do that job or make that money if our people are not safe. So we need to make sure that that is at top priority of all times. If we have something backing up, if we have a water heater that is down where we unfortunately can't wash our hands at the right temperature and its cleanliness is of the utmost importance. Anything along those lines, those are going to come first. We want to make sure that there's power to the store, that our lights are on, that our guests feel safe. All of those things are extremely important to us and they will become top priority. If there is a giant pothole, that is a safety problem. We want to get ahead of that. We had a system, fire suppression system go off for no reason. We're glad the fire suppression system works. It got triggered by the heat, but getting that cleaned up and getting a clean, safe space for our guests to be back and pump their gas, extremely important to us. So, of course, a wet floor, something flooding, that's not safe for anyone. So we know that all of those things, they're going to come first. Our priority is if it's an emergency, which we do handle through our dispatch system, that's a 4-hour turnaround time. That's a requirement that we have for our company that we need to make sure that we are hitting in order to keep our team members happy and safe and to keep sales up. Piece of kitchen equipment being down, extremely important. We want to be able to sell that food to our customers. And if we can't make the food or if we can't keep it warm, unfortunately, we can't do that. That's a big part of it too. We're here to make our customers happy and to sell them product and gas and whatever they need. So it is extremely important. We prioritize those top two things. Sometimes something along the lines of a food warmer where we are keeping food hot is going to become priority over maybe a slushy machine being down. So you want to go by what's top sales, you have to think about these things, and you have to think as a maintenance manager, what does operations see as what is more important? And sometimes you have to talk through it with your team and say, this isn't going to happen today. This is why it's not going to happen today. You might have an emergency at their other store. You can explain that to them. They know, they've been there, and they'll say, you're right, that what's happening at my other store, that has to take priority. And again, building that trust because you've shown up and made it happen so many times is so important that then they're able to say, okay, yes, Carrie made the right decision and I trust her to make that decision.
It's very impressive how crystal clear you are on the priorities and why they're important. And it sounds like your whole team is equally as clear on it. And
Yes,
like it's driven by safety and sales. That's it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It is extremely important to us.
Yeah, that's very, very impressive. Two other questions on that. So 4 hour turnaround, does that mean they show up in 4 hours or there's a remedy?
On site within 4 hours. We would love a remedy within 4 hours. We want to at least have that remedy in play within those 4 hours. Now, we would like to be there quicker than 4 hours. I personally would, if it is a safety situation, that is really important to us, being there as soon as possible. So we don't look at it like, oh, we've got some time, we've got 4 hours. That is of the utmost importance. You're wrapping up what you're doing, and that is going to be the next thing that you do. And my technicians understand that. They trust that I am not just sending them because, hey, there's nothing else to do. They know that we've got a schedule. Now we're going to stray from that schedule quite a little bit so that we can prioritize whatever safety or sales is being interrupted.
Outstanding. You've mentioned your dispatch system a handful of times. And so I'm curious, could you tell us a little bit more about it? How was it developed? How was it utilized?
Sure. Yeah. So we use a system called Service Channel. I think the interface is extremely user friendly. I have used other systems. I have seen other systems, demonstrations from other systems that I find to be a little bit busy, and maybe information overload is not as crystal clear. I enjoy Service Channel, and I find that when I speak with my vendors, I always ask, what systems do you see? What systems do you use? It's something that's important to us because this is our day to day. We live in this system. We invoice through this system. All of our calls go through this system. So I want to know what's out there, what else works for people, what they see, what they like. And we really enjoy the system. It has worked well for us. Our team members and our vendors like it a lot too.
Excellent. Excellent. You talked about emergency response. So I don't know if we need to cover more on that, but you also talked about trusted vendors. And let's dig in a little bit there. Like you said, you have in-house and outsourced, but go ahead. Yeah.
Absolutely. Another really big priority for Noria, and this is instilled from the top of the food chain down, is we like to use private vendors that do not use third parties that have W-2 employees. That is not to say that we've never used a good vendor that uses a maybe third party when we are in a pinch. What we really like is we are able to have local vendors, maybe smaller privately owned companies that we use and we have great long-standing relationships with, whether it's a plumbing company or we've had to supplement for HVAC and we've had to supplement for electricity, whatever it may be. We like to use someone that we have a relationship with and we built a relationship with, and they know our expectations. And I think that's the easiest and hardest thing to get across. So I find it easier to use these companies because they understand that vision, but also trying to make people understand why we don't want to use a company that hires third parties, because you're not working with that direct person who is that decision maker. They are not going to understand your needs and your requirement for quality. So our vendors, they know that emergency comes through, it's a 4-hour turnaround time. Again, they all have me on speed dial, my counterparts on speed dial. They know that they can call. I know if they haven't accepted that ticket, something's going on. I can pick up that phone. I can call them. I can trust that they're going to get back to me. I know the ones that are really great with updating our tickets in service channel and being able to trust that they're going to let us know what the resolution is, if there is a resolution at all, if this is going to be a longer wait time, if we have to order parts and our systems are going to be down, whatever is going to be down, equipment, we need to be able to update operations on that. So having that trust from the vendor to communicate to myself or into the system for me to be able to communicate back to the operations team is so important. Or everybody's standing there going, what's going on? Has Carrie done anything? Has anyone done anything? Does anyone know this is really happening? So having that trusted vendor pool that understands what we need as a company is really important.
Hey, Rockstars. If you're tuning into the podcast and are feeling overwhelmed by all the maintenance demands at your facility, don't stress. We've got you covered. Our sponsor, Cleanliness, is your go-to partner to help you tackle all those demands and get them done right, on time, and with top-notch quality. From project planning to execution, Cleanliness is there to make hard work easy. Visit cleanliness.com today to get started. You were, again, extremely clear on a lot of points there. They understand your prioritization. They understand your standards. And then you were very clear about W-2 employees. And yeah, I get it now, right? That was going to be one of my follow-up questions, but so could you tell us a story about, or an example of a company you worked with, maybe here or another organization, where it wasn't that scenario and what occurred? Because we don't work in a straight line, right? In facilities, it's always like zigzag. So what happened?
I've had multiple situations where you're trying to get a message across that something was not done properly. And I can give an example of a time where we had a situation where doors needed to be fixed, and the communication from the company that was sent. So we sent a third party company to fix these doors. This company dispatched a door company. That door company went out and fixed our doors. My technician, a couple days later, sends me a photo, and these doors are definitely not to standard, and they're crooked, and they're not closing properly. And I call this vendor and I say, this isn't working out. This doesn't look good. Looks like one door was maybe replaced and it wasn't matching the other door. And they said, no problem. We will make sure we communicate this to our vendor. We're going to get them back out there. I said, okay, no problem. And I trust this vendor. And this example is truly just a hiccup with a trusted vendor that we do really like to use, but it is also an example of why it's easier and it makes so much more sense for us to deal direct. They sent them back out there, and a few days later I get a ticket. The doors aren't closing again. I ask my technician to go by because, again, I don't want to make assumptions. I want eyes on it. If I can't get eyes on it, I do have technicians. I try to keep them across the state and in their regions that can pop in. And I got pictures. It wasn't good. I wasn't happy. And my message to my vendor wasn't getting through to their vendor. And it's a telephone game. They were not seeing what I needed for quality. I think this was really basic too. So this is where the frustration comes through. These doors should match. This is a fairly new branded store. These doors should close. The weather stripping should be done correctly. There should not be a gap in the bottom. These things happen, but if I'm not dealing with the person that's doing the work, my voice isn't being heard 100%. And I do trust that a lot of the vendors that use third parties, they do their best to get that across. It's just not the same. So
Mhm.
eventually they made it right. And that's extremely important again, because someone we trust, I did ask, please don't send the same vendor back. It's important to me that someone new with new eyes on this, that doesn't think leaving this in the condition it is okay. And they did. And of course they made it right financially wise. They really took care of it. But again, it would have been a little bit different if I was able to, at that time, use a direct vendor. That's not always the situation when you're in a tight timeline or whatever it may be, and no one's available. You have to reach out to the vendors that you have the relationships with, that you know that will take care of you. But again, not always the same result.
That is a great example. Really good example. And I'm tying it back to one of your core reasons is safety. Like if a door isn't working
Absolutely.
properly, right, that could be a safety issue too.
Huge safety issue.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It sounds like, and I know you said they took care of it financially, but the thing is like, obviously, what about your time? It sounds like you had to touch the situation, maybe 5 or 6 times versus
At
one or
least.
two? Yeah.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So time spent.
Absolutely. And that happens. It does. And that's where we really look into why our senior leadership has the structure that it has and has the requirements that it has for Noria. And it's easy to understand that when you come across these circumstances. They've done it, they've seen it, they've been there, and they want us to instill that too, for reasons.
Excellent. Great example. Thank you for elaborating so much on it too. It's really helpful.
No problem.
So, Carrie, you mentioned, or in the intro, I shared with our audience and our listeners that you have sites across 3 states. How many sites do you manage or oversee?
So we have approximately 90 convenience stores within those 3 states. I think it's about 120, including car washes.
Wow. Okay. That's a lot of physical locations to be responsible for. So, what kind of complexities are involved? I know you walked us through your systems and your dispatch, but what are some of the issues that arise, or challenges, or successes, so we can all learn from that?
Absolutely. I think the most important thing that we did talk about a little bit earlier is Noria is highly focused on having their own in-house team. So I have a team of 4 to 5 technicians at a time. The majority of all of our stores are in Massachusetts. We have a handful in Connecticut. We have one in Rhode Island. Making sure that I have a staffed team for those regions. So I have a North Shore technician, a South Shore technician, a technician that is kind of in central Massachusetts area. And then I have our Western Massachusetts and Connecticut technicians. I usually have 2 people to cover that area because it's extremely dense. It's important to me that we have someone there and ready for our team to be able to dispatch right away. Not a lot of our situations or issues sit for a long time. So I know we spoke about emergencies are 4 hours. Our technicians, because of the way that we have everything laid out, they're able to be there for most issues in a pretty timely manner. And that's something we try to take pride in as well, especially if it's something we can handle in-house. It shows our team that there is a face from Noria that they can trust, that they know is there on top of everything. Of course, if we don't have an in-house technician that can do it and it is a time sensitive situation, having that vendor, that trusted vendor pool to be able to get out there and take care of it is also extremely important. It's just not letting these issues sit. And again, that's where we build that trust with the 2 departments, with operations and facilities, knowing that we're going to be on top of it because we've done the research. We know where we need to be staffed up. We know where we have older buildings that might have
Hmm?
a few more issues than you would have with some of the newer builds, and making sure that we are on top of that and have that covered. It's not always easy. I could have 3 emergencies going out in Western Massachusetts, but I have a technician on vacation and I've got one guy trying to run the show, and we get those vendors in there and they help us out. And if not, my guys will I will always communicate with them. Hey, we've got another emergency. Are you able to head down from Springfield to Connecticut next? And yeah, once I'm wrapping up with this, no problem. Or Carrie, I'm knee deep in water. I can't. And then we dive into that really trusted vendor pool. So it's not simple and it's not always easy, especially when you have extreme heat or extreme cold or extreme rain, and you have multiple issues going on all across the state. But having the people that you trust and having your own in-house technicians has been an absolute savior for this entire company. It's really great to have what we have and have trusted in-house employees that handle these things for us.
Yeah, it sounds like you've built a nice bench strength through your vendor network as well. Because, like, great
Absolutely.
example, if you have a guy on vacation and the other one's knee deep in water, well, what are you going to do? Well, you have that bench strength right there that you can go into that pool of trades that you can call
Yeah.
from. Yeah.
Yeah. It's great.
Now, am I correct in stating you guys are all locations are 24/7?
Not all locations. We do have a significant amount of stores that are 24/7, but we do have stores that close around 11 or 12.
Okay, so does that affect the dispatch? And do you have more staff at certain times of day, or how does
It
that play?
does affect dispatch, especially when a store is running 24/7. Sometimes if it's, say they need a cleaner in there, well, we want to get a cleaner in there, but we don't want to shut the doors either. So if we're cleaning floors and we don't want to do it at 4 in the afternoon, if we could do it later at night or after the store closes, or say we have a pest control problem and you want to spray for bugs, you don't want to do that while you have team members in there. Well, you truly can't in some situations. And you want to make sure that you're not interrupting guest operations. It's extremely important. So you do have to make sure you're speaking with your district managers and they're communicating with the store, and you know what is the best time for this to happen. Sometimes you have, well, for Massachusetts, you have fire suppression on all of the canopies. You have to shut those pumps down in order to do the inspections on those fire suppression systems. You don't want to do that at 8 a.m. So you have to make sure that you're trying to keep everything up and running during the right time. However, when you have 90 sites and 90 different gas stations that you have to keep running, you need to work with the vendor because the vendor has to handle all of those. So just making sure you're communicating with everyone on their schedule and what works. Again, we have kitchens and there's hoods and hood suppression on those, and those need to be inspected regularly. We hate to shut down a kitchen early, but I can't have that hood inspected when that hood is steaming hot and has been in use. So we have to shut it down an hour before they get there. So making sure we understand what time the kitchen's closed, what time the store is opening and closing. It's important for all involved.
You are so dialed in. Like, every system seems extremely dialed in. And again, right back to clarity, and you're clear on everything that's happening, Carrie. It's very impressive. So you touched on cleaning crews, and I know that's another passionate thing for your team and for yourself, and that's cleanliness, right? So
Yes.
you talk about that a bit, please, and how it's prioritized and how you handle it.
Absolutely. And I'm going to speak to this from a consumer side because that's what we all are. We are all consumers at the end of the day, and we have all been to a dirty store. We have all been to a dirty bathroom, and we have all walked out of those situations. Knowing that and being a consumer is so important to look at it from that perspective so that you know what you want when you walk into a store. And that's really where our quality comes in. So and that comes down to operations. Operations really handles a lot of the cleaning, and they keep these stores up to a standard that is necessary. There's also the times that, there's going to be a larger spill, or there's going to be something that they can't get to, something that somebody needs to get on a ladder or a lift for to get it cleaned, and we will be out there to handle that. Deep cleans where you really want to get those floors scrubbed, and yes, are they mopping and sweeping and they're maintaining, but there's also that deep clean. It's the same way at home. You maintain as much as you can until you're like, okay, now is time to like really put in the elbow grease. So It's extremely important to us that, operations helps us out, and they do, keeping and maintaining the stores. And then when we need to get a little bit more thorough, and we'll get a cleaning crew in there and make sure that these places are somewhere where we would want to go to, where we would send our family to eat from, to use the restroom, any of those things. It's extremely important.
That is such a great framework and mindset because my view on it is the same. It's exactly the same. Because if you're going into the same place every day as an employee or someone who works there, right, in any capacity, you may have blinders on. And then if you force yourself to look at it as a consumer, it kind of opens up the lens a little bit, in my opinion. So yeah, I love that framework.
Absolutely. You have to look at it from that point of view.
So what advice would you give if you had one piece of advice you'd give to someone in your role or a role similar to yours? What would that be, Carrie?
My best piece of advice, say to trust in your team members, and hire a team that works well together. I think that's the most important piece. You cannot do your job without your team. I can't do half of what my team members can do. I can manage a schedule for them. I can be there for them. I can support them, but I can't be in all the places that they can. And trusting them and relying on them and taking care of them is what makes the world go around. It keeps the ball rolling for us, and it keeps operations going. Really being able to trust in them and have that really great team that works well together, a team that if something's wrong, they can then lean on each other, and they don't think they have all the answers either. And that's something that I found in the team that I have. They're great, and I couldn't do it without them.
Love that advice. I think anyone could heed that advice. And I don't know if you just mentioned trust, but you've said trust many times throughout the podcast here too. And that's if you have a team that can trust each other, they're going to work well together, right?
Absolutely. It
Yeah.
is extremely important, and it is something that I have found that we have here very much so. And without it, none of us could do our jobs to the capacity that we're doing it now.
Awesome. All right, we've learned a ton. There's all kinds of nuggets you've dropped here, so thank you very much. And it's really impressive. Like I always think about businesses that work outside of normal hours, right? Our operation does too. And it's like, how do you handle that? It just there's so much more complexity and so many more hours to cover. So well done. It's very impressive. So
Thank you.
after all the discussion about what you are doing with Noria, is there any time to do anything else? And what does Carrie do if there is?
Sometimes, yes. No, I do get to enjoy myself. Absolutely. Although, facilities it's a 24-hour job. But we have our downtime. Work-life balance is extremely important to everyone here at Noria, and we lean on each other to be able to have that time. And I enjoy spending time with my family. I have a stepdaughter. She dances. She keeps us very, very busy. She's a competitive dancer. And then we like to have family days. So when she's not doing that and she doesn't have commitments, spending time with myself, my husband, and my daughter, just going out to different restaurants. We're all foodies. We really like to enjoy a waterfront restaurant. We like to drive around and find new places, try new things, try new food, and just spend that quality time together, especially when the weather is good. So
Good
we
for
do
you.
that as much as possible. We travel, we go down to South Carolina quite a bit. We have family down there, so that's important. We're going next week, so that'll be great for us.
Awesome. Awesome. I completely
Absolutely.
agree with the waterfront restaurants, by the way. You can't beat them.
Always trying to find a new one where we just say, all right, let's drive down to this area we haven't been. Let's go. It's great for New England because it's easy to find.
It sure is. There's quite an abundance. Good for you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that too. So if people wanted to know more about what your experience is, the things you're doing, and I'm sure they're going to, what's the best way to get in touch with you, Carrie?
They can email me. I am always available. It's cbattafarano@noria.com. You can shoot me an email. I am available. We're always looking for a new vendor pool. We're always looking for, a different, avenue to take, or if we're shorthanded. So please reach out if you're looking for work. We're growing. Noria is always growing. So we're always going to need new vendors, and go ahead and shoot me an email.
Awesome. And we'll put the email extended what it is in the notes, in the pod notes too,
Great.
for anyone who didn't quite catch it. Carrie, I can't thank you enough for being on the show, investing your time, sharing all this knowledge and everything about your operations and maintenance teams. It's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course. And for everyone listening, if you learned something, if you laughed, you can find us at facilityrockstars.com or wherever you consume your podcasts. Another great episode of Facility Rockstars, and we'll catch everyone next week. It's a wrap. Another episode of Facility Rockstars is in the books. Facility Rockstars is sponsored by Cleanliness, operating the way you operate in order to make your life easier. Until next time, facilitate and rock on.